Peace and Black Power. Welcome to another edition of Babatv. Every time fire, street consciousness, live all the way in DC. On back, I will call this the afternoon show with Brother Tehuti. Now, Brother Tehuti, I was going back through some of my oldies, and I was sitting there listening to the OJ's brother Eddie Levert, just listening to him. And I thought to myself, I ain't never heard somebody holler and make it sound good, where you can just feel it. Now, I explained something about, because you know I don't want to get into too much the music, the music back then versus the music today, but just that, because it's all the same thing. But what is it about the that music, you know, that our people, the Temptation, particularly, I want to talk about the OJs and Eddie Levert, because I saw him in concert one time as well. And he kicked, the first brother I seen kicked the, well, James did it too, Brother Brown did it too, but he actually kicked the mic all the way back and hollered, and you could hear that man's voice ring throughout the whole auditorium, or where, I forget, I think it was the convention center. And I was like, I never heard a man holler like that and make it and resonate and make it sound good. Talk about our brothers today.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, that just reminds me of an experience. I'll go to my brother Bob Marley back in the day, who tried to explain it when he said, feel them spirits. See, when our brothers and sisters grow up in the church and start singing spiritual songs from their heart, when they, at the age when they really believe what they are being told, so they are trying to address their spiritual nature, they learn to sing with what we call in the music business soul. See, so it's an expression of their souls. The Queen sister, the Queen of Soul, who just passed away, is another perfect example of it on the female side. Women who sing, I mean, who own the song. You know, when you would think that the lyrics came straight out of their hearts and they're trying to tell a story. And when Eddie Levert and brothers like he, who has that voice that when they're singing from deep down inside, you know, their voice vibrates. So it's not screaming, it's their soul expressing itself to the audience. And that's why the people in the audience can feel a vibration. It touches them at the level of their soul. That's what soul music was when we were again, entertaining and what have you from the bottom of our hearts and stuff, singing our hearts out. Another way of saying the same things. But to learn to sing without going to a music teacher, you know, like in having formal lessons, you know, learning musical notes and that kind of thing, but learning to sing with expression in the church is the foundation of what we call soul music. And you find it both in our, you know, like music that entertains us, and in our music that lifts up our souls in the various forms of gospel in the churches. Again, just watching again the celebration of the Queen of Soul's life and the number of artists who participated in that ceremony. And I mean, you could just tell when they hit a note or their performance that just shook the whole audience, and everybody just stood up clapping, and because of the reverberation that comes out of a people who are basically at their roots in harmony with the universe. See, like, and so it's a universal sound that they can reach down and get in the pits of their souls that other peoples just don't have any relationship to. I mean, they just don't understand it.
Melanin has something to do with it?
Yeah, because our melanin allows us to absorb the energies of the sun in a different way than other people's. See, like, and the energy from the sun, I mean, you know, like that energy, it's like sound waves, it's waves. You know, like that. There's a pitch that you could hear it. You know, like if you develop instrumentation is to listen to the waves, but energy waves is a vibration, And when your voice that's in you, your actual self, expresses itself, it's in harmony with the waves that's in the universe. And that's spirit. That's scientific spirit. That's not boogeyman or ghosts or just made up stuff, but that's real a real scientific explanation of what's going on. And I mean, going back to sisters like Marian Anderson and going back to brothers like Paul Robeson, the one thing that other people who discovered our arts and how we express ourselves, all right, have always noted, you know, like that we seem to sing from deep down within our souls or within our spirits. So you can feel them spirits, man. Even when Molly put it to the reggae beat, the folks coming out of the Caribbean, wherever African people are, when we were brought into captivity, our spiritual selves expressed our real feelings in terms of how we were interacting with wherever we were in our environment. As bad as things were being in captivity, there were days when we had celebrations and we celebrated, you know, like spiritually. We came from societies where we believed in the divine. So when we had a chance to express our relationship with the divine in a new environment, whichever one it was in, again, you know, like if we were only allowed to express it like in the North American colonies through Christian methods, and unlike the brothers and sisters in a lot of the Caribbean and South American environments that could continue to express their spiritualism in a dual way, that is, to cover Catholicism, but with the spiritual systems of West Africa embedded in it. But however we did it, you know, like when we start addressing that spiritual need, music, both voice and instrumental, raises itself to a pitch that again vibrates deep down inside of us. So whichever culture we're from, when we're really singing to the divine, to what we call God, Allah, whichever form we want to express it in, it's done you know, in a real sort of way. I mean, I just remember back, you know, like as a young man when I was drafted, went into the military, and the first time I went to a military church service was the first time I had ever been in church with white people, you know, like, and the way they were singing those songs and the way the minister was quote unquote preaching the sermon was all just strange to me. I mean, there was no spirit there, you know, like no feeling. It was just like being in a college class with a professor hearing a lecture, and the you know, like people just sang do, you know, like the songs with no feeling, no expression at all. So I mean, it's almost like going to a service of good white people who have good intention in their heart, but when they sing Amazing Grace, you know, like it's part of their church service, and then you go off and you go to one of those good old Southern spiritual churches and hear that congregation sing Amazing Grace, the same song, and you would think that you were on two different planets, because one group of people really feel this grace and expressing it, you know, like in the substance of their hearts, you know, as they sing this song. But yet on the other side, you know, like the people are going through like it's a academic activity they have to perform, so they just sing it and sit down. So it's just two different expressions. But yeah, but our people, man, we've been on this planet, you know, like hundreds of thousands of years. Don't go by the European short calendar, but in fact, they'll say, you know, like as human beings, we've been here 4 million years, millions of years, as our ancestor says. And some, one of my great teachers says, well, in one form or the other, we were here at the beginning. We just hadn't manifested ourselves yet. But being part of the universe, the first humans, all right, the root of life on this earth as people, we have an attachment with the planet that other people don't have. I mean, you know, like in our natural environments, we didn't pollute up the earth. We didn't dump all the garbage and pollutions into the water. You know, like all of these things. You know, people who don't have a spiritual relationships with Mother Earth, that cultural people, they're the ones who's damaged the earth, who's caused this global warming, as they're talking about now, and these kinds of things. See, just because they are not stewards of the planet, they just appear to be alien beings, and all they want to do is just dig up the earth, get what riches and what have you they can out of it, accumulating wealth at any cost, no matter what they do with the garbage from the processes that they employ trying to get the mineral wealth up out of the earth. This guy sitting down in Washington in the White House today wants to reopen up the coal mine so they can just burn more coal and put more carbon energy into the air. It's already been taught scientifically that that's what opened up the ozone, that is damaging the atmosphere. But instead of that being part of how they think because of the relationship they have with Mother Earth, no, they just want to dig it. They don't care. They say, well, we're not sure that we're the ones, by putting all this carbon in the air, that we're causing all of this strange weather and changing atmospheric conditions. It's just a con game that they run because their primary driving force is greed. It's not spiritual. It's not being in scientific harmony with the earth itself, where we find ourselves, and being in scientific harmony with the laws of the universe. So they live in they are disconnected people. They appear not to have any type of real spiritual substance. Even in their primary institution that was created by what I call the world's first con man in Constantine, and the religion that he put together, which ended up being the Mother Catholic Church. Look at the contradictions in what the doctrine of the church is and what the behavior of their priest class has been throughout the centuries. A lot of stuff is coming to light now because of the press and the interconnectivity of the globe. But in every country where they have these priesthoods, they're finding that this priest class are at the least pedophiliacs. I mean, these are cats who've been raping children and raping even young men and women, as part of of what they do in their church. And it's not just every once in a while, once here, once there. It's this thing has been like a plague on the church, and they can't bring themselves into harmony because of the contradictions of the falsities of which they base the foundation of their church on. Again, taking an ancient African idea and then reincarnating it, saying, well, in the original sense that the Africans expressed it, it was just mythology. But as it applies to us, it actually happened in human life. Tell the audience a good book to go read, Black Power Nation. It's a book by an English white boy. His name was Alvin Boyd Kuhn. It's called Who is This King of Glory? Get some education. Really find out the relationship between what's written there and how he explains how they took the ancient Nile Valley doctrine and its story and its spiritual system and rewrote it and just put the activities in a different environment, gave the comedic characters a different set of names, and are really going forward with the same doctrine. You'll find there's nothing that the Jesus character of Christianity did that didn't happen to the Heru or Horus character of the Nile Valley system. And once you understand what actually happened, you'll understand how the con man put together the religion as a con game, and why that, despite 2,000 years of being under it, it has not transformed these people into being really loving, gentle people in harmony with their fellow mankind and the planet we live on, or the universe. What you'll find, they say they believe in that, but yet their behavior is still going out to conquer other peoples, to master other peoples, and control other peoples, as what have you. So their system is not a system of infusing peoples that they ran into with the divine truth and the divine religion that the people of the planet ought to be practicing. But it's actually just a con game.
It's going to come back on. It's acting up. All right, go ahead, T.
Okay. Yeah, there are musical riffs that the young brothers and producers and sisters use today in today's hip-hop form of our music that were in place when the blues was born. All right. So our music, both our blues and our spiritual music, like it's the harmonies, it's the rhythm that you just find it in different formats, but the similar formats, the same note formation, whether it's fast or slow, like whether it's B flat, like F sharp, like whether it's, the keys, those kind of things change, but the basic foundation of what our music is hasn't changed. In fact, the younger generation overlaid the lyrical styling of hip-hop and rap on top of blues, soul, funk, as such, like, so the foundation, the styling changed in terms of how they produce their lyrical sounds. The lyrics and the lyrical style change, but the foundation of the music that they laying these lyrics over, is the soulful sounds of black music. Then you had geniuses who came along, like Dr. Dre, with electronics, which enabled him capturing some of the natural instrumental sounds, but with electronics, digitizing, he was able to put a new flavor to it with additional sounds and interruptions and what have you. But all of the genius musical tracks that he laid out, still the foundation of it, even with electronic or computerized music, the foundation is still the original blues gospel creation, which is the voices of the souls of black folk. You're hearing in that the injury and what today they call the psychological trauma from captivity and slavery. In those sounds, you're hearing the disgust with the lifestyles one is forced to live because of segregation and discrimination, and in that you're hearing in the musical styles the purity of folk who really who believe and express these universal concepts with the true feelings from their heart in terms of what it means. So when a brother loves a woman, I mean, when he uses that terminology, you can feel it in that lyric. Like when he's torn apart because that woman left him, like in his blues, you can feel that he really means this. He's not just made up some lyrics for a giddy up kind of song, but he is singing an experience. And the reason that it sounds so true and pure is because the foundation with which he's expressing himself, again, comes from that purity of really wanting to express him or herself from deep down within their souls.